This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Canna Health.
EndoDNA is a simple DNA test that maps your entire endocannabinoid system to help you better understand what cannabinoids and terpene profiles best suit your genetic makeup. EndoDNA is essentially a blueprint or roadmap to your best cannabis experience that is tailored to your unique needs and body chemistry. Imagine being armed with personal information when visiting a dispensary or retail CBD shop. You'll have the power and capability to purchase products that best align to your genotype. So if you're interested in understanding your own genetics and taking action by regulating your endocannabinoid system through optimal cannabis and CBD experiences, go to their website at endodna.com/products and use the promo code CONNECT15 for a 20% discount. Again, that's endodna.com/products and the promo code is CONNECT15 for a 20% discount. The future of precision cannabinoid therapeutics is here with EndoDNA. Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Tara Wells. She's the founder at Ganja Goddess. Ladies and gentlemen, the CBD goddess herself, the Ganja goddess herself, Tara Wells. How are you?
I'm great.
It's great to have you on. Did you like that intro? That's pretty good, right?
Good intro. Not as good as Noah Trevor's, but I'll take it.
Hey, well, that's something that I can work toward then,
Yeah, I want stars going off in the background and everything.
There you go. Well, now
Here
I
in
know.
California, we like to go big.
Well, now I know. So if you have a good time on the show now, and if you want to come on next time, I'll get the confetti, I'll get the fireworks.
Yeah.
We'll do
At
the
least
whole
the
thing.
fireworks, maybe the confetti.
Perfect.
A little snow. I don't know.
That's a deal. Hey, well, thank you so much for coming on today. I want to start with, just allowing the audience to get to know who you are, Tara. So let's talk about your background, and where your journey into the cannabis industry started.
Well, it was very circuitous. I came to cannabis later in life. I didn't even try cannabis until I was 30. And I was a TV producer and writer for a very long time. That was my first career, and I was really successful. I won an Emmy, and I did, it was a great career. But I also really love gardening and cooking. And I had a garden, and my tomatoes were growing up over the roof. They were just going crazy. And so I thought, I should try some cannabis, because I had some cannabis seeds somebody gave me. And just as an aside, somebody in my family had cancer, and it had come back several times. So I thought, well, I'll grow some cannabis and make tinctures, and I'll make brownies for her, because she was having a hard time period with pain and different management things with cancer.
So let's back up a little bit, though. So you said you didn't start, like, you didn't discover cannabis to really get into it until you were in your 30s or 30, right? No?
What happened is I had a friend who, he was an editor, actually, and he was a really close friend of mine, and he would get up in the morning, and first thing he'd do is he would take, a little bit of he would smoke a little cannabis, and he really used it for creativity. And he kept saying to me, you gotta do it when you're writing. It'll be amazing. And I was like, no, I don't like to smoke. I've always been a real goody two shoes,
And in the corporate media, I mean, you don't want to be out of the closet in that environment, because there's this certain stigma, right?
Right, there is.
Yeah.
There was. It's changing. I have to say, it has changed a lot. But back then, which was, 15 years ago, it was like, no, you don't talk about it. Anyway, he urged me to try it, and I did. And I thought, he's right, because I found that my brain and my consciousness and my creativity just blossomed when I already had a lot of that going on.
Sure. But it was like this epiphany. You were like, wow, like even more so. Yeah.
It really was. And so I thought, well, this is great. plus the other thing that was happening is that cannabis was really being used for healing, especially with cancer patients. So, I thought, well, I've got to explore this. I'll grow any vegetable that's different to try it, because I'm a cook too. And so I put some cannabis seeds into a pot, and they grew. And I'm telling you, they took over my garden. They got so big that
Wow.
it was crazy. And I was giving it away. And then I thought, well, I'm going to make this tincture because, as I mentioned, I had a relative that had cancer, and she was really having difficulty. So I thought, well, I had this brownie recipe that was a family brownie recipe that nobody could resist. If you ate one of these brownies, you had to, you couldn't stop. It's just an amazing recipe. So I made some cannabis. I grew the plants, dried them. Then I made a tincture that was a alcohol-based tincture, but I also made butter because I don't really like to smoke. The truth of it is it's hard on my lungs.
My dad is the same way. Same thing.
And so I thought, I'll smoke sometimes, but it's not, I cough like crazy and I hate coughing.
Right.
So I made these tinctures and I did this brownie recipe. The family we had Thanksgiving, and we all gathered around her. She was in her 80s, and we all had a brownie before dinner, and we did it all together because she was very resistant. No, I don't want to try pot. That's not good. She did it. She hadn't been eating, and she'd been losing weight, and she was going to die. But she sat down to Thanksgiving dinner and she ate with us, which was a huge thing. And from then on, her daughter took my tinctures. I sent her the tinctures every week, and she would take a tincture in the morning, first thing when she woke up. And she was able to stop using a lot of her opioid pain medicine, which was really remarkable. And it really helped her at the end of her life. So for me, that combined with my own personal experience, I feel like if you don't have an illness that you're dealing with and you want to use cannabis, finding the dose that works for you so that you can function well, but also enhance the things that you do. With me, it was creativity and, just being out in the world is great. If you take too much, you're going to get, really stoned, and you don't want to be that way all the time. Right. Sometimes maybe you do, but you really don't want that. So for me, it was really about experimenting with the different dosages and also looking at how it healed people.
And how did you go about learning about proper dosage and things like that, right? Was it like you just applying yourself and talking with people and going online, or like experimenting for yourself, combination of everything? Like, what did that look like to you?
Well, it was really a combination of a lot of things. It wasn't just one single thing. I did a lot of research, just academic research, but I tried it on my body, and I tried it on my my boyfriends. We tried different dosages. I tried a lot of different recipes. And what happened is I went to Burning Man, and at Burning Man, it's a gifting society, and there's no money exchange or anything like that. When you're in a camp, you give out gifts to people that you meet, and they give gifts to you. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, I'll make these brownies and I'll take them to Burning Man. And I did. That was my gift.
That's a great gift.
Very popular. I was out of my gift in 2 days. But one of the guys in my camp owned a medical dispensary in Southern California, and he tried one of my brownies, and he was blown away. He said, "You have to make these for me." And I said, "Well," "I'm really busy. I have a show that I'm working on. I really don't have time to make brownies and sell them." He said, "Just do it. I promise you, it'll be good for you." So I did. And they sold out in his shop within like 3 hours. He calls me and says, "You got to quadruple your recipe. You got to make it for me. I'm delivery 3 times a week." I said, "Okay."
What was it that just blew him away? Was it the taste? Was it the potency? Was it type of flower and quality? Was it all of it? What was really struck him?
That is the secret of Ganja Goddess.
That's the secret. You can't say that.
But I'll tell you, it's the combination of everything. It's an amazing recipe.
Okay.
It's really high quality organic materials. We steep the actual plant in butter so that it's all of the cannabinoids are able to dispense. We don't do, extractions from that, because I think you lose some cannabinoids that way. So I think it was everything, really. The packaging, I had some really fun packaging. The name Goddess Brownies, Goddess Food, Ganja Goddess. So
Right.
I think it was a combination of everything. So what happened is that I had this side hustle of, cannabis brownies, tinctures, butter, things like that. But they started selling like crazy all over California. Anybody who ever carried them, they would double their orders over and over and over again. So I realized, maybe I need to make a little transition in my life. I had been very successful. I'd won an Emmy. I'd done a lot of things in the entertainment world, but I felt like, maybe it's time for me to look at other things, because I was very interested in healing as well. I think it's a lifelong practice that we heal and take care of each other and our bodies. So this gave me that opportunity. I've always been a proponent of natural healing too.
Yeah.
I feel cannabis is.
To that point, Tara, like, so right now, all we really have in the industry is the anecdotal data, right? Like
Right.
the stories that you tell me about, was it your family member who had cancer? And
Yeah.
yeah, and then yourself, right? And then your friend who introduced you to cannabis, who also felt creativity and in a way that it enhanced his life. And then
Yeah.
so what do you think, like, when we have this, because all the peer review studies and research has been stifled due to the Schedule 1 listing, right? And
Right.
how did it just, isn't it crazy to see politicians, I don't want to name names, but recently saying basically, if you legalize cannabis, you're going to kill your kids. I think that was a direct quote. And to me,
It's ridiculous.
it's just, at this point, it's getting ridiculous, right? I mean,
Ridiculous. It's fear-based. You have a segment of society, usually older, conservative, that don't have any experience with cannabis. I was one of them. I didn't know the benefits of cannabis until I tried it myself, until I saw it work on people that I loved. But the reality is that cannabis is way safer than alcohol. I mean, study after study that we're doing now shows that alcohol contributes to cancer. Alcohol, is a much more, it fuels aggression. It makes people, all kinds of things that have negative effects with alcohol. And yet alcohol is legal.
right.
And certainly people don't think that giving alcohol to their children, I mean, within reason, it's going to kill them.
Right.
The cannabis has proven, and now we are able to do studies. Johns Hopkins University is doing some very large cannabinoid studies. A lot of different places that are medical entities are doing some really great research. Obviously, one of the things that a lot of people know is the effects of CBDs, which is part of cannabis on epilepsy. It's amazing.
Right. No, absolutely. And when I think about statements like that are made, those false claims with no data to support it, right, whatsoever.
Ignorance.
I just wondered. Well, that's the thing, right? I wonder, it could be three things, right? It's protecting of interests, right? There's
Right.
that.
Alcohol industry is an extremely powerful, well-funded industry with very powerful lobbies.
Right.
And they see cannabis as a threat.
Right.
There is a faction of society that we were brainwashed that cannabis is bad and it will kill you and people do crazy things. Not true. And and we haven't done enough research to show the medical benefits. But certainly my experience has been nothing but positive. I've never ever had a negative experience on cannabis. Now, I have been very mindful of taking the right dose for my body. And I've also found when I've had different things that I didn't feel good, something I was sick or achy, or my knees, I don't have a lot of cartilage left in my knees because I was very athletic. And so I get, a little arthritis. I take a little bit of cannabis, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really, I've had personal experience with it that's been very good. And now, we have over 175,000 unique customers in California with ganjagoddess.com. we have so much anecdotal. I mean, people write us and say, thank you so much. And which is part of the story. After I started doing the edibles and they became extremely popular, people were contacting me and saying, oh, I want to order 50 brownies or 25 brownies or this or that. Patients at the time, it wasn't, just completely 21 and up legal. It was all medical. So,
and that's, well, I'm sorry to stop you. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that like when you've had no experience with the plant prior, right? It's
right,
almost like the lines have been so blurred with all
right,
these different substances that people just lump them into one bucket and they say
right.
totally bad, not good for you. And we're starting to see, with more anecdotal data, like you said, the patients that y'all are serving throughout California and other patients, throughout the nation and even the world, these stories are coming to light, and we're starting to understand, wait a second, cannabis is not exactly like heroin, and psilocybin is not like meth. And we're, because
It's a completely different ballgame. And
yeah,
the only way that we can normalize it, and that is my mission, is to normalize cannabis use. And the only way we can do it is to educate and to show examples where it does work. So the research is very, very important right now. And for me, I try to fund and participate in research as much as I can because it's so important. But again, it's also, as our society changes, I believe that this is a paradigm change, that we're going from a fear-based, alcohol-based to a more healing cannabis-based society. I think within 10 to 15 years, maybe even shorter, maybe in 5 years, we're going to see you'll be able to go into a restaurant and order a cannabis soda, just like you can order a gin and tonic or a beer. And I believe that it's part of it also is that as people, the society changes, and you have people that aren't afraid of cannabis in their 20s and their 30s, and that whole thing shifts, and people in their 50s, 60s, 70s unfortunately are going to die, but then the whole thing changes as our society will change. Even now, one of the things that I work really hard on is to reach out to people in their 40s and 50s and 60s and even 70s and try to educate them on the use of cannabis. And we have a lot of patients that are older, not patients, customers, because it's legal now in California, thank God, and in many, many states. And we give them a lot of information. We talk to them about dosages, but again, every single person is different. You have to find the dose that you feel comfortable with and works for your body. What works for me might not work for my best friend or somebody that is trying to try it for the first time. So it is really education and getting rid of fear. A statement like that guy made that, oh, it's going to kill your kids. Cannabis has never once, ever. There's not one single documented case of cannabis killing anybody.
It tells me that they need to change their playbook up a bit. Like, you know what I mean? Because like anymore, with like so many people having Twitter and even having experience with the plant, that's just absurd talk. So if their intentions are ill and there's interest that they're protecting, then they need to come up with better stuff than that, because that stuff's not going to fly in 2021.
They can't, because there haven't been any deaths, there haven't been any, it's quite clear that cannabis is something that is beneficial to society. We have cannabinoid receptors in our body.
Right.
So, that tells us that cannabis has been used for centuries and centuries. They unearthed a grave, I think it was in Egypt, I'm not quite sure, but they unearthed a tomb and they found somebody that looked like he was a healer or a king healer. He was clearly a very esteemed person in his society. And he was buried with a big stalk of cannabis that had dried, and so that was kind of a symbol of what he did or what he valued.
Wow.
And so it's been used in society for a long, long time, just as a lot of ethnogens, a lot of the substances that people are using these days to, and reach a more expanded consciousness. They're finding, they were used back in the Greek times. They had these societies that were, that they it was the great educators and politicians, they participated in these circles of consciousness expansion. So, it's happening.
Yeah, I hope that trend comes back, the consciousness expansion among political leaders, and maybe them, sitting down for a peace pipe session. In fact, Andrew D'Angelo was on the podcast, and he mentioned that. But in all seriousness, like he's like, with so much divide and everything going on, like my recommendation is everybody in the House and Senate smokes, and then
Well,
comes in
I
for
don't
session. And
agree with him.
I
Do not
know.
agree. I think that it's the division in our country that we've seen, especially in the last 6 months, is so extreme, and people get so worked up that we've lost sight of the fact that really we're all one. There's a guy named Paul Stamets. He's out of Oregon. I don't know if you know him. He's one of the premier mushroom people in the world, like all kinds of mushrooms. And I mean, every mushroom, he's a complete and absolute expert. There's a great documentary on him called Fantastic Fungi. And one of the things that is great that he mentions is that all the mycelium, their roots are all intertwined, and they're what looks like 5 different separate things are one. And I think we as people are exactly the same.
Yeah.
We like to think of ourselves as very separate, but we really are one. And if that's the case, then having a consciousness that is all one, it does nothing but make us take care of each other, love each other, support each other. It's really the wave of the future, but yet it's just the way it really is. We're a lot of people are very neurotic, including me, and we can't see it all the time. But when you do allow yourself to relax and open up to the universe, you feel it and you see it.
Yeah.
So,
and I totally agree with you. And psilocybin and cannabis in ways helps you do that. It helps you.
no, absolutely. I think, it's just a matter of, it's like, the vaccination right now, I think 10% of the people in the United States are now vaccinated. So it's the wave as it grows, then, we will be safe from COVID. It's the same thing with cannabis use. As we all experience it, then we experience this understanding and this oneness consciousness that some people call God consciousness. That's why I named it Ganja Goddess. It's the consciousness of union.
And the goddess part, is it because the plant is feminized? It's feminine?
There are a lot of reasons. I came up with that name one day. I have a pretty big piece of property up in Santa Barbara, and I was there camping with my partner, and we were talking about this idea and the goddess energy of the plant. It is feminine. The best part of the plant is feminine, that we harvest the flowers. There's also the consciousness of union that it gives you. And, so the name just came to me, and I thought, oh, this is the perfect name. It really is. And it was funny because my lawyer said, I don't know if you want to use cannabis, ganja in the name, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I'm doing it. That's what we're doing. It was divine consciousness. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And it's a great name, and it's really served us well.
No, I love it. And the logo, and like you said, the branding and the packaging is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And you brought up a point that I want to dive deeper on, that I talked a little bit about with Gina and Dr. Leslie on previous episodes, and that is cannabis as it relates to women's health. Right. I know that there's been a lot of research and history that has shown, like Queen Elizabeth would use hemp seed oil for her menstrual cycles and PMS. And so in addition to that, overall, why is cannabis good for women?
Well, I think that in our society, women have so much responsibility. They take care of people. They're very family oriented, but we're also very corporate and work oriented. So we're juggling a lot, and it can really get to you. So for one of the things that I've seen, and one of the reasons that I started CBDGoddess.com is that CBDs really help with anxiety and with tension and with inflammation, all things that happen when you get your period and just in daily life. So with using those products, you can really, really calm down the inflammation in your body. And inflammation is a big killer. It's responsible for a lot of disease. Almost every disease has a lot of inflammation connected to it.
Yep.
When you get your period, when you go through menopause, there's a lot of inflammation, and it really calms it down. So CBDGoddess.com, and we ship all over the United States right now with all different kinds of CBD products. It works on so many levels that work for women and the stress that we're carrying in our life. And especially this past year, I am convinced, I mean, both CBD Goddess and GanjaGoddess.com, our sales increased huge. I mean, it was a huge increase this year. And I think a big part of it was the stress and the anxiety of what was happening to all of our families and to all of our work and to everything. Everything stopped, everything changed. And that, creates a lot of tension and anxiety. And, it really helps. Cannabis helps, and so does CBD. So, I was really honored to be of service in that way.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, during the height of that pandemic, I mean, we're still, I know, getting out of it, but when we were in serious lockdowns, I mean, we saw the numbers, right? I mean, cannabis consumption was almost equivalent, if not more. No, it was almost equivalent to alcohol consumption. So we saw that people were kind of looking at cannabis as an alternative, which is good. And, what you mentioned about women's health, it's, and just kind of overall for human beings in the endocannabinoid system, it basically serves as a regulator, right? Homeostasis for your body to keep everything in balance. And so,
right, because we get way out of balance.
Right.
Just dealing with children, just dealing with your husband, or your lover, or your family. I mean, it's stressful. Then you add on top of that, making a living, creating a career, doing something good in the world. It's a lot to handle. And so anything that can help you reach a new balance point when you get out of balance is really good. And it's healthy. I mean, cannabis is something that supports our own health.
Right.
And, so I'm a big believer in it. It's funny because you mentioned just with women, one of my buyers came to me the other day about a new product for women that are in the whole premenstrual menstrual phase. And she said, we've got to carry this. This is so fantastic. And I was like, okay, cool. And once again, we started carrying a product and it just went off the shelf like crazy. So it used to be that men were the main audience and the buyers of cannabis. And now I really am firmly believe that women, in our particular company, 47% of the sales are to women, which is really unheard of.
Yeah.
Market to women for that reason.
And if I could predict, if I could throw a prediction out there, I would say that with more women adopting cannabis, it's only going to expedite the overall support. Public
and
support.
The normalization,
exactly.
I totally agree.
That's like the key entrance, I think, because which there is, substantial anecdotal evidence that shows that there is benefits, health wise for women. How can you argue that, right? I mean, so.
And I mean, it's interesting because I know with myself, I used to on Friday night, my partner and I would pop open a bottle of wine and either go out to dinner or go to movies or stay home and watch a movie. But we always had a bottle of wine. Now we use cannabis. We don't even bother with the alcohol because it's just cannabis is such a nice way to just ease down into the week.
Right. And what's your preferred consumption method? Do you guys smoke? Do you eat edibles?
Well, he really likes to vape, but I don't vape that much. But we really like edibles. We like gummies. We like chocolate. We like the brownies. Okay. The brownies are the #1 amazing. They're so good.
I want to try them. I know you're making me
There, I'll send you some. We stopped
Thank you.
production when we switched over from medical to retail for ganjagoddess.com. And we're just now starting production on the brownies again. And so they'll
Gotcha.
be out within a month or two because we had to take a little time off to rebuild a commercial kitchen and everything. But, they're coming and they're amazing. I mean, I have friends that, are like, they fly to California. And the first thing they do when they land, they're like, okay, I'm coming over to you. Better have some brownies.
It's like their tradition. They can't go anywhere without their Ganja Goddess brownies, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
That's awesome.
it's
Well,
been an amazing ride. I mean, we like I said, we started ganjagoddess.com in 2011. I had started the Ganja Goddess food in 2006, and we did it really because there were so many places in California that didn't have access to cannabis. So we had this idea. Let's create a website and do just, we became like the Amazon of cannabis, and we had customers all over California, which we still do. And it's done nothing but spread. And that was the same with CBD Goddess. I felt like, in Texas, cannabis is illegal, but CBDs are not. So
right.
I want to curate the best CBD products that I can find so that anybody in the United States can have access to them. So that's what we do.
That's amazing. No, I love that mission. We want more people to access the plant because obviously there's a lot of benefits, and we talk a lot about the benefits, but I also want to add that, like you mentioned earlier, proper dosing, and because there are adverse effects as well. I mean, if you
take too much, you're gonna, I mean, if you take a lot too much, you're gonna get super high and you're gonna feel out of sorts and you won't be able to move well. So proper dosing is important, and it's important that you find the right dose for your body. I was mentioning before that when you have pain or when you have something that you are healing, if you've had surgery or something like that, if I took the regular dose that I usually take of cannabis just for relaxation, when I don't have any issue going on, it wouldn't work. I would have to take a little bit more. So you have to kind of find the dosage of what works for you for whatever condition that you have.
Right. No, that's so important for sure. Hey, Tara, I think I saw that you're going to be speaking at South by Southwest. Is that right? Coming up?
Yes. That's coming up. Yes.
Awesome. So what's your topic about?
It's being released. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the topic? What are you going to be covering?
We're talking about the rise of, I mean, we pre-recorded it, and what we did, we talked really about the rise of cannabis in society, and as that we're in the infancy as far as a business of cannabis. And so, we talked a lot about how the whole business can change with legalization. We had a pretty wide range of topics on that panel. It was really nice that we had some great speakers.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, hopefully like soon we'll be able to actually meet in person, right? And not do a lot of these virtual events. Cause it's hard to kind of replace that in-person, meeting.
Yeah, it really is. You get a synergy that happens. Although it's been very interesting to have to kind of pivot to doing things virtually. It has been a learning process for everybody, I think. But I get a lot more done because I was spending a lot of time in my home office and not going into the office, that we have. I'm now switching back. I got fully vaccinated in California. We've really ramped up vaccinations, so our whole office is now vaccinated, which is great at all our locations. So
yeah, everybody can get back to work. That's good.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Awesome. Well, Tara, before we wrap up, I want to give you the floor. Is there anything that's on your mind that you want to talk about or leave the audience with?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I'm interested in right now, as one of the leaders in the cannabis world, is really to continue the normalization of cannabis, which means that, everybody from every walk of life needs to understand and to educate that it is a great herb. It's something that we can all use to our benefit. And that we're just on the tip of the iceberg of this industry. It has so much growth potential that it's quite phenomenal, and it's exciting. I mean, I'm I'm thrilled that I'm a part of it. I really feel blessed, and I feel a big responsibility to help somebody like this politician. I think he was in Nebraska that said, if we legalize cannabis, it's going to kill your children. Well, he just is fear-based. He may be being paid by the alcohol industry. He may be getting a lot of support, but we have to educate each other. And that's really my mission.
Yep, it's a great mission, and we got to continue to share those stories, those testimonials, because
Yeah,
I mean, there's really nothing more important than that firsthand, data where people have
yeah,
seen the efficacy themselves. So,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
thank you so much, Tara, for your time and serving the patients and the customers of the great state of California. And
yeah. And with
um,
CBD Goddess, we're all over the United States. CBD Goddess.
yes, well,
You can,
that's
yeah.
what I was going to say. So, where could they find your website and social media if they want to learn more?
Well, there's cbdgoddess.com that we ship all over the United States. And then in California, it's ganjagoddess.com. And so, those two sites pretty much cover everything. So, and in Seattle, we have Ganja Goddess, a retail store in Seattle as well. So,
There you go. Perfect. Well, thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you again hopefully in the near future.
great. Thank you. It's been really a pleasure.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening. Bye.
Yes.